Real quick, just an intro for the video. I'm basically now working on the final stages of my website, and to get that to life as soon as possible, I figured it would also be probably a good idea to have a friend of mine who's behind the camera, can't see his ass right now, but maybe to have him ask me a couple of questions so that I have a page on the website that kind of introduces you to who I am and the things that I do, the things that I have planned in the future, things of that nature. So, with that being said, should I say anything else? Anything more for an intro?
I think that's
sufficient.
That's perfect.
Please go ahead.
Okay, then let's open the interview. And I thought it would be nice to just have a chronological line throughout the interview. So let's start in the beginning. And let's start on the topic creativity. When did you really start getting into creative things?
I'm gonna act a little bit as if I haven't thought about it, so that it looks like it's more of an interview than me already being prepared for the answers. But no, really, it is. As a young age, I always started drawing stuff and started to just be creative with colors and coloring things in. But I wasn't really being very good at it at a young age because I wasn't really having a lot of skills with my hands, things of that nature. But I just figured out that I wanted to be different when I started to play soccer at like a football club here in Amsterdam. Because sometimes these guys from Ajax would come through. So Ajax is the biggest soccer team that we have here in Amsterdam, and they would have just top to bottom, all Adidas gear, new shoes, new training outfits, everything brand new. So it would look like they were already professional, but they were still like little kids. But I was looking at them and thinking like that looks cool. But at the same time, I was also like, what if you're the only guy on the whole team that has like a different pair of shoes on? Then you're the one that is kind of catching the attention and things of that nature, you know. So with playing sports and doing things in team nature, I was always like, if a lot of guys would come together and buy the same cleats to play a season of football in, I was like, let's get something different, let's stand out a little bit. So that is also where my sneakers passion comes from. So that is like one of the earlier moments that I figured out that I was that I didn't want to be like the same guy that everyone else was and things of that nature.
And what was the next step for you? Because first you started with being creative in your accessories, things you would wear.
But yeah, you remember, right?
Yeah. But how did the first switch come from just trying to stand out to
creating stuff?
Exactly.
Ooh, I wasn't prepared for that one. I figured like summer breaks, the period we are in now. When I was a little kid, I used to go to my grandparents' house, and my grandfather had like this whole garage, if you've been there, had a whole garage laid out where he would work on cars, things of that nature. And when all of the women of the family would be in the house and just doing women stuff, he would drag me out of the house to come work on cars with him and things of that nature. So then I kind of figured out how some components worked. I think I changed like my mother's entire brake system when I was like 10 years old and was completely fine to drive with, and I did it by myself. So my grandfather, of course, checked everything to make sure that the cars were safe, but I managed to do those type of things. So when I kind of started to figure out how these things worked, I kind of wanted to create my own versions of the things that I saw, but to make them optimized for the way I want to live my life. And that's not just for cars. As I grew older, of course, I started to expand a little bit and to focus on different avenues of design, different things that I could kind of manifest my creativity in. But just the stages of kind of figuring out how things work and then trying to figure out how I can make them better myself. I think that was one of the major things. But also when I was even younger, when I started to get shoes from my auntie, I remember she bought me like an Air Max 95, so like with multiple layer blue joints with like, I believe it had like an orange airbox on it or something. But I think I didn't really like the way that the orange looked on it, so I took like a pencil and just made it blue, so that the whole shoe was blue, things like that. So I think when I progressed to kind of figure out how to manipulate stuff to make them my own, I started getting interested in also drawing these things out and to kind of modify things that already exist to the way that I would want them to be, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, enough said about shoes. Let's just straight get into the topic of graphic design, which you're currently spending most of your time on. How did you get into that?
My dad saw that I had a little bit of a talent of creating just things on, also like paint and also by hand when I would get when I got older. So I think that was maybe around the time I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. And instead of having me just draw with pen and paper, he just gave me a computer, and he figured out like maybe if you start figuring out how to do this on a computer instead of doing it by hand, a computer kind of gives you more reason to go, more ways to kind of manipulate the things you already made. You're kind of limited if you have just a pen and a pencil eraser to kind of erase lines, but if you have a computer, you can modify things more and more. And if you then also later figure out how to convert the 2D stuff into the 3D stuff that I've been doing later, then it's kind of more beneficial. Instead of having just a piece of paper, you can then later on figure out how to do better and bigger things with the idea that you have instead of just putting it on pen and paper. So I guess that was the first step, but that was just from going to a piece of paper to then learning how CorelDRAW. I don't know if you remember that software program from way back in the day.
I can't recall.
It is like Windows 97 type shit. It's really, I don't know if it still exists, but I believe we were like part of the generation of the first kids that started to really get into computer stuff, just that wasn't doing things professionally, that recreational design things on computers. But I believe the software is called CorelDRAW. I'll look it up, maybe edit it into the video to show you guys something. But that is just some sort of a Photoshop drawing type of software that you could make stuff in. So I just started to take like, I used to be pretty good at drawing cars, but I didn't really know how to put it in 3D. Like when I was drawing with a hand, so I would have like a front view, would have a side view, top view, but I didn't know how to make it in 3D. So I would make it into CorelDRAW, and then my dad gave me SketchUp. And then when I got SketchUp, the first time that I could take things to 3D, it was over.
Things took off.
Yeah, it was over. So that was my start with computer design, graphics, and things of that nature.
But to create so much things in 3D and all the things that you're working on in your head, what sources of inspiration do you use?
It is very different. And as I get older, it also changes a lot. To be honest with you, I don't even remember what it was back in the day. But maybe. What do we
you could say inspiration flows and changes.
Yeah, but
time.
I think back in the day it was just if Chris Brown and Lil Wayne had a new music video and Chris Brown had like the craziest Lambo with a weird body kit on it that he designed himself. I just figured maybe I should make a Lamborghini that he would like to drive that kind of looks like that, but it's a completely original design. But and I think inspiration came from things like that. But as older I get, it comes from the weirdest things. I have like a photo album on my Instagram. I also edited in. From just things that I save on Instagram, just pictures of like birds that have weird color combinations on it, pictures of Egyptian sculptures, and now with the internet and with things like Instagram, because you have like this big visual content that's just everywhere over wherever you go, it is pretty easy to find things for inspiration. But also art, sculptures, Tomilo Inaba.
Yeah,
I'll add a picture in this as well. Every time I mention something, I'll add a picture into it. But but that is just if you can find like a story. I believe also when you get like a good story in, when you get like things to find reference points, it's kind of easier to create an art object or create just a product around that story, I guess. For instance, the project for Truvian that I made, the single-seater race car, I just figured what would be the funnest way to kind of get a Need for Speed type of feel in an actual car, so that you could push on a button and have like a nitrous boost. What would that be? And then I figured out how to use the electric motors on the differential, things of that nature. And then you have like 1,000 horsepower button that you can push, then just floor it and just go. So things of that nature. So I think it used to be when I was younger, just looking at things that I would see in my surroundings and kind of figure out how to make my own version of it and to make it the way I want it to be. But as older as I get, I don't really focus on what other people are doing. I just kind of focus on a storyline and creating just top to bottom my own version of how I want things to be, not modify already existing things.
Okay, that's dope. But I think if I summarize your story, you take most of your of your inspiration out of things you're interested in.
Of course, yeah.
But also the things that stand out.
Yeah.
Because we talked about the Lamborghini from Chris Brown and his own design body kit, so yeah.
But also just other people's craftsmanship, I guess. I can get really, I don't know how to put it, but when you look at like, have you seen the Porsche Singer, the DLS? I don't think I showed you it yet.
Add a picture.
Yeah, but it's like the most crazy advanced way to build like a Porsche. Imagine like a Porsche from 1989 that is built the way Pagani Huayra was built. Things of that nature. Like if somebody has like really fine attention to detail and just things of that nature, that inspires me. But then it doesn't really matter how the total picture looks, but just like an Audemars Piguet skeleton that you can see the workings of the royal oak inside and things of that nature. If I've also mechanical things, just if things work and just are designed properly, I like it.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about the project Vitruvian. I think that project is all rounded up, right?
Yeah.
What are your current projects that you've been working on?
It's a little bit too much at the same time. And
okay.
I should categorize it and just focus on one thing at a time. But number one, of course, is the website right now. Because I figured the purpose of the website is pretty just, everybody has an Instagram account. And also a lot of people have a website, but I figured to stand out in this overexposed world on the internet, you kind of need to do things a little bit different than other people are. So there are a lot of other people that are designing things on Instagram and just other stuff, but I figured that if I don't want to be bound by 30 hashtags or this many characters that I can use, or just one picture or just 10 pictures or just a video or whatever, if I really want to give like a custom experience to people whenever they kind of come to my website and they are introduced to a project properly and to a product or whatever I wanted to do, that is stand out a little bit more than when you just have an Instagram account, just have a Twitter account. So that is the website. That's number one on my priority list right now. The second thing that I'm working on is the Biserini car. And that Biserini car is, it's like I said, Biserini used to be an Italian engineer that used to work on the 250 GTO Ferraris, the Scaglietti Berlinetta, so the expensive one that cost like 50 million euros or something. That engineer then later on developed his own car, couldn't get an engine from Ferrari, so he had to get like an American engine into an Italian car, things of that nature. So it was a weird story behind it, but these times stories are of all of these cars, it kind of gets interesting to then maybe make a modern version of something that already exists. But because it is like a 1963-65 car, the modern version can look completely different. But if you take like a couple of these small design cues, then you can take the design language and just make a modern version of it without copying it. You can really put your own spin on it. So that is kind of the Biserini project that I'm working on right now. But also, I didn't begin on it to start a Biserini project. I just make these platforms like for cars. So now I wanted to make a front engine rear wheel drive platform for a car, so that in the future I may also can design like maybe the next Ferrari 800 Superfast type of version of a car, but then just rebody the thing that I already made for the Biserini, so that you create platforms to also design many different cars on. So that is kind of the project 2 and 3 that I'm working on at the same time. So creating platforms and also creating this Biserini right now on this front engine rear wheel drive platform. Those are the first 2 and second. This is the first, second, and third project. Fourth is the clothing designs. So that is kind of a stepping stone to later on create more stuff. So when I get the payment was received by the company in China that will be making these samples that I'm ordering right now for the hoodies, and they're now sending me like 2 samples here and there. And if I then approve these samples, I will order 100 hoodies, and I will put these 100 hoodies also on the same website to get some revenue, to just start creating some income. Hopefully people like them, buy them. And when this first 100 are sold out, I will never make the same design ever again. So maybe let's not say ever again, but let's say this will just be a run of 100 products, because also the way that I'm turning out these logos and things of that nature, I can design clothing at a pretty rapid pace. And also, if things are getting more successful, then hopefully I can also bring in some other people that are also designing stuff. And I just want to drop like maybe, let's say, 100 shorts on Wednesday. Let's just drop them and let's see how quickly they sell out. And then you go on to maybe on Friday you drop another 10 t-shirts or 100 t-shirts, but just do 100 or something and then never make it again. I think that would be a cool concept.
So limited exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then start out. I'm just started with the hoodies, and hopefully as they sell out, the income that I have from that will allow me to make another clothing piece of article, or maybe do like something with furniture designs that I have in my head. So that is the 4th project that I'm working on. But I'm gonna just keep it at that for right now. But there's more stuff rambling coming up.
Okay, so it's a lot of projects you're working on currently. So how would this let's talk about the future. How would this how would you work on several projects in the future? How would you combine it? How would your lifestyle be?
Okay, so let's talk about hypothetical situations that everything just goes as planned, and I can financially support myself with just the work that I'm doing right now. Then I can quit my job that I have right now. I work at a Nike factory store, so that is also taking up 4 days in a week, because even though I only work like 6 hours a week, 6 hours a day, my bad, the time before and the time after is pretty hard to then combine it to work on something else, because I start a little bit too early to work, wake up earlier to have something to do before I go to work, and I finish a little bit too late to then still be focused on other stuff that I want to do on the side. So that will open up my schedule a whole lot. So that would be the first step to kind of create multiple projects at the same time. If I also generate some income, I could start maybe putting guys like you on a payroll to help me with a lot of stuff. Other friends that are in school for marketing right now to help market some products. And also the hoodies that I'm doing right now, I'm doing with a friend of mine that's already doing pretty good stuff with marketing and things of that nature. So I'm also not really all the way by myself right now. So, but all of the signs that you see are indeed mine. So that is just when my schedule gets opened up a little bit more, and I can maybe have the financial freedom to also let friends come in and help me on stuff. That would make it a lot easier to work on multiple projects at the same time. So, and also because I also went to automotive engineering school in Rotterdam, I still have a couple of contacts over there, people that still go to school already are in the last year, they're about to get a degree for automotive engineering. If I have any ideas, I can just get with those guys and let's see what's happening. But, so things of that nature. So yeah, so if in the future things go well and I can support myself financially, I'll be able to free my schedule up and just start making stuff at a higher pace than I am right now.
I think it's a nice vision for the future, and I think that concludes the interview.
Yeah, thank you for the interview. And hopefully that kind of gave an insight of just things that I want to create, things that you will see from me, the content and the type of content will be created from SVA Design. And stay tuned for the hoodies, because that is also really a way to support not only me, but also the business and the friends around me that kind of want to see this thing flourish. And also the hoodies will look dope on you, so I'll also be providing you with a service. So thanks for watching. Please leave a like or subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out everything on the website and make sure to stay subscribed and stay tuned to everything that we do. I'm Shaquille Veldboom. That was, should I say your government?
Yeah, just say my name.
CJ on the camera and on the mic and on the audio and everything. And we'll be seeing you in another video. Peace.